play. All right. Well, welcome everyone. I am so excited to see you today. It is day one of the 2024 Vegan Health Bundle, and I am here with Cyd Notter, and we are both going to talk about the contributions that we've made to the bundle. So to just reintroduce myself, I'm Stephanie Spencer. I'm a former cardiac RN of 27 years, and I'm also board certified in lifestyle medicine. And I'm now a plant-based educator. And my contribution to the Vegan Health Bundle is my You're as Old as Your Arteries course, which is everything you need to know about preventing, treating, and reversing coronary artery disease, which is our #1 cause of death in the Western world. And I'm going to talk more about that. And then I am joined by Cyd Notter here. Cyd is a Center for Nutrition Studies certified professional, a licensed PCRM, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, Food for Life instructor, and she's a certified starch solution instructor and the author of the award-winning book, The Plan A Diet, combining whole food plant-based nutrition with the timeless wisdom of scripture. And she also hosts an inflammation support group every month for PBNSG, and I'm going to be talking about inflammation today. She's often a featured speaker at VegFest and other groups, been teaching cooking classes for 25 years and coaching. And so anyway, I'm really excited to team up with Cyd today. And Cyd's contribution, which I think a lot of my followers are going to be thrilled about, is called Age Well with Strong Bones. It is a course on basically combating osteoporosis. And I can tell you, I had a fall down the stairs. I was trying to run away from a tornado about 15 years ago, and I shattered my ankle. It should have just been a twisted ankle, and it turns out I was osteopenic. And so I have always been worried about that. And so I'm happy to learn anything we can do and frequently we don't get like complete information within the medical system. So I'd love to learn lifestyle measures we can do to improve our bone health. So take it away, Cyd.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie. Thanks for having me on today. I too was once diagnosed as osteopenia many years ago. And when I gave up dairy, the whole thing reversed, the opposite of what you would think. When I changed my diet, my bones actually got better. So I will share with you today. This is a course that I co-collaborated on with Eileen Kopsaftis. I don't know if you know her. She is on Chef AJ's show regularly. She has a once-a-month slot. She's a PT and probably the best person I've ever run into as far as a PT that totally understands the body, the systems. Everything's connected to everything is her big mantra. And she always explains on her Betty Bone skeleton what's going on.
Yeah.
So we teamed up to pool our resources to develop this class. And I will share my screen with you if that's okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Oops. Would you please allow me to screen share? That would be in the security.
Multiple participants can share. Let's try that. Allow all participants to share screen. Try it again.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Okay. There we go. All right.
How's that? Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So Age Well with Strong Bones. This is an overview of what is in the bundle. So having strong bones is on the minds of many women these days. I talk to a lot of them who are concerned that they're going to suffer a fracture at some point. And rightfully so, because 50% of all women over 50 will be diagnosed with low bone mass, and that risk increases with age. We give all these statistics in the course. 1 in 2 women and up to 1 in 4 men will break up to 1 bone in their lifetime due to osteoporosis. And they say that the incidence of breaking a bone is greater than the risk of having a heart attack, a stroke, and breast cancer combined. So this is a real issue. So maintaining strong bones is indeed something we want to strive for. Oops, there we go. Okay. So in the course, there are 5 educational lessons, as well as a couple of bonus cooking demos with me doing how to make dairy substitutes for your favorite things like cheese, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then Eileen does some excellent bonus exercise videos. One is for people that are trying to prevent osteoporosis, and one is for people with osteoporosis.
Excellent.
So lesson 1 is titled Bone Design and Function, and it talks about the importance of our bones. So a normal adult has around 206 bones, and our bones are incredibly strong in spite of their light weight, right? You wouldn't think they would be as strong as they really are. But in lesson 1, you will learn about the importance of our bones and the role that they play in everything from our posture to supporting our organs to how it works together with our muscles to allow us to function. And muscles contribute to a wide range of motion, which we would not even be able to do if we didn't have our skeleton. Even our blood cells are formed within the marrow of our bones, and those red blood cells provide oxygen to our organs, and the white blood cells that help fight off infections. So bones are really, really key to our entire health because they store and release minerals based on how our body needs them. Not sure if you've ever heard that selective absorption, where our body absorbs just what it needs to function that day. Then we'll talk about some bone statistics, and here in the United States, how many adults are indeed diagnosed with osteoporosis, and why building bones in childhood can prevent osteoporosis later in life. So the statistics say that by the time a child is 18, that has determined whether or not those bones are going to be strong enough through adulthood. So we need to really keep that in mind as far as what our kids are eating as well. And osteoporosis is indeed preventable. And as in most things, diet, exercise, and lifestyle are the key. Then Eileen talks about in depth how our bones remodel. In other words, how our bone cells continually break down and rebuild every day, every minute of the day. You know, our bones are breaking down and rebuilding, and how there's a variety of complex signaling and control mechanisms that affect that whole process. So she explains all of that. And then she also clarifies some things about vitamin K and how we can obtain it and the importance of vitamin K regarding our bone health. And there's actually 2 types of vitamin K, which I did not know until Eileen shared that with me. And she explains all of that in the class. Then in lesson 2, we go into a deep dive about calcium and minerals. And when it comes to calcium, or when it comes to bone health, rather, we tend to focus a lot on the calcium, but there are many other minerals too, and they all play an important role in bone health. We'll talk about those. There's boron and magnesium. There's like 12 more minerals that we need beside calcium. And we talk about that. You know, we tend to focus on calcium the most, but all of those minerals are important. And then we'll talk about which foods are great sources of all of those minerals as well, and why potassium is so important. And we all know bananas have potassium, right? That's like a common thing. If you need potassium, you eat bananas. But we talk about the other food sources of potassium as well, because potassium is not only good for our bone health, but almost everything else our bodies do, from our heart and kidneys to our muscles and nerves. So we share all of that in the class, like why each of these minerals is really important. And then we talk a lot about calcium itself, which, as many of you know, calcium is a mineral in the earth that's absorbed by plants. And both animals and humans get their calcium from plants, right? That's why plants are the optimal source of calcium. Even the largest plant eating animals on earth, like elephants and hippos and giraffes and horses and rhinos, they all get enough calcium from plants to sufficiently grow and maintain their large skeletons. And you know what other animal gets their calcium from plants? Cows. Yep, cows do not produce calcium, nor do they have calcium inherently in their milk somehow. Cow's milk has calcium because the cows are eating plants. So our bodies contain about 2 pounds of calcium, and 99% of that is stored in our skeleton.
Mhm.
Then Eileen will teach you about the calcium paradox, and she goes into great detail about the acidity and alkalinity of our bodies. It's called the pH levels of our blood, right? pH, potential hydrogen. And she explains all of that. She talks about the 3 major systems that our bodies employ to buffer acidity, because our pH level has to remain pretty neutral. The body will do whatever it takes to keep
Mhm.
our pH level neutral. If it goes too acidic, It's got to buffer that acidity. And there's also danger if it goes too much to the alkaline side as well. So she'll explain which foods contribute to dietary acids when we take in too many dietary acids, and why some of the most common foods that we often believe to be acidic, like lemons and limes, why they may not be really acidic at all. It all has to do with how our body digests the food is what contributes to the acidity level. So when we're taking in too much acidity, the body drains calcium from our bones to buffer that acidity. That's why they call it peeing away your bones, right? Because that all that extra calcium then gets in our bloodstream and gets processed out through the urine. And I've heard that referred to as peeing away our bones. And that's what happens with a high animal protein, highly acidic diet. Then in lesson 3, we talk about dairy products and why that should not be the source of our calcium. And remember, we just talked about plants are the source of calcium, and that's where the cows get it. And I share more about that in the class, the purpose of cow's milk, which is to rapidly grow an 80-pound cow into a full-grown 800-pound cow in about a year, right? And as such, that milk has a lot of growth hormones, which are just not designed for human consumption. So viewers will learn all about those growth hormones as well as the saturated fat in dairy. In fact, cheese is the highest source of saturated fat in the American diet. And there's also cholesterol in dairy and casein, which Dr. Campbell has proven is a known cancer initiator. There's casomorphins, which keeps us kind of addicted to dairy and cheese. It's a feel-good opiate that keeps the baby cow close to the mother while it's weaning, but it keeps humans close to the cheese counter as well, according to Dr. Barnard. And then there's the estrogen concerns about dairy as well. So we talk all about that. Plus, dairy contains 0 grams of fiber, right? We're striving to eat a healthy, high fiber diet. There is 0 fiber in dairy products. And then I'll explain why low fat dairy is just as detrimental or worse as full fat dairy. A lot of people think they're doing well by choosing low, or skim milk, and really they're not doing themselves any favors there. And then we talk about how much calcium we actually need to prevent osteoporosis. And I'll share examples of daily menus. In fact, why don't I just tell you that we need, when you look at all the organizations that have determined this, like the World Health Organization and other organizations have said that we need between 500 and 650 milligrams of calcium a day to prevent osteoporosis. And, here we're told we need 1200 milligrams pretty much, but we don't really need that much. And it's easy to get from plants. In fact, I'll give a few examples of here's a breakfast and a lunch and a dinner. And if you ate this for today, you'd have 800 milligrams of calcium. So we show just how easy it is for plant-based eaters to get all the calcium and minerals we need from plants, as long as we're eating enough calories. If you're starving yourself, it wouldn't be good to not eat enough calories. You have to eat enough calories in order to get your nutrients met. So we always say that Americans don't have a calcium shortage or a calcium deficiency problem, but rather we have that calcium drainage problem, right? That just as we just mentioned, due to the high intake of animal foods, which contain those dietary acids, and all of that is talked about in the class. And then we, in our country, we sometimes think that if a little bit is good, then a lot must be better. And that is not correct when it comes to many nutrients, including calcium. Consuming too much calcium can be just as detrimental as not having enough calcium. So we take a look at calcium supplements because and I want to clarify that Eileen and I are not here to tell anyone what to do. We're just going to present you with the data so that you can make your own informed choices about things like calcium supplements. But there are risks involved with calcium supplements as well. If you have too much calcium in your blood, it's called hypercalcemia. And that hypercalcemia can lead to various complications, all of which we talk about in the class. And we look at various studies regarding calcium supplements and their risks so that the viewers can make their own informed decisions about calcium usage. And then we talk about the hormone known as vitamin D, right? And how our bodies soak up the sun rays, and then with the help of our liver and our kidneys, they convert that to the storage form of vitamin D. And we'll look at some studies on whether or not the use of sunscreen has any impact on our body's ability to make vitamin D. And we'll talk about all the conflicting views, even among respected plant based doctors. There are differing opinions regarding the need to supplement with vitamin D. So we'll look at some research about vitamin D supplements and the effect that they have on our bone health specifically. And once again, all of this is presented so that you, as the viewer watching the course, will have the ability to make your own informed decision about these matters. Then in lesson 4, it's titled Common Testing and Treatment for Low Bone Density. And this lesson alone right here is worth the price of admission to the bundle. I'm not kidding, because Eileen, she even did her college paper on this whole topic. She goes deep, does a deep dive into today's bone drugs. But before I talk about that, how many of us think that bone mass predicts our future risk? It turns out that that's not the case. Did you know that our bone mass does not predict our future risk of fracture? Eileen does an excellent job of explaining how the very definition of osteoporosis was determined, and I think you'll find that quite surprising. And then she goes on to discuss DEXA scans, and there are 2 types of DEXA devices out there, and how they work, and whether or not the machines can be considered reliable. And so she goes into all of that, as well as the definitions of your T score and your Z score. All of that will be explained, and what those results would indicate, if your T score or Z score is not where it should be. But keep in mind that bone density tests are comparing the T score of your bones to that of an average 30-year-old woman at the peak of her bone density. So did you know that as we get older, some bone thinning is actually normal as we get past our childbearing years? And Dr. McDougall has a great 3-minute video on that topic too. And then Eileen goes into depth about today's commonly prescribed bone drugs. And there are 3 different types of bone drugs on the market, including some brands that you might recognize, like Fosamax and Octanel and Boniva, Reclast, Forteo, Timlos, and Evenity. I just saw a commercial for Evenity today, as a matter of fact, and everyone's dancing. It's like a musical for the drug Evenity, which is, but Eileen describes in detail what each of those drugs is designed to do, their side effects, and how effective are they really in preventing fracture. She talks about the difference between relative risk and absolute risk. And when the drug companies and other science reports their findings in relative risk, it makes the results look far better than they really are. So you will learn the difference between relative risk and absolute risk. And as we point out through the course, this is not intended to give you advice or instruct you to take bone drugs or not take bone drugs. It's just to give you the independent research so that you can weigh the pros and cons regarding the bone health treatment options that are out there. And then lastly, in lesson 5, that's the final lesson, we talk about other lifestyle factors that can positively or negatively affect our bone health. A few of the negative ones would be smoking, right? Did you know that smoking can actually affect your bone health? Or consuming alcohol or certain medications can even be a factor. And being sedentary, we'll talk about each one of those. And then Eileen will talk about the importance of exercise. Now, this is what she does, and she does it so well, and how exercise builds our bone mass. And she covers which type of exercise is the most effective for our bone mass, and what is the best exercise we can do to reverse osteoporosis. So even if you have osteoporosis, there are things you can do to really get relief from that or actually reverse the condition. And you'll learn what is the most accurate and biggest predictor of bone strength and the cost associated with inactivity. So we definitely need to exercise. And then we'll share with you some good news. As mentioned in an earlier video, we share good news. It's important to know that some bone thinning is normal as we age, right? So that's good news. And many cultures live long, active lives with very low fracture rates, and so can we. So the good news is that you have a lot more control over the health of your bones than you may have ever imagined. And it's easy to get your calcium and mineral needs met through following a whole food plant-based diet. And it's never too late to increase your bone strength. It is never too late to do that. And then there's bonus material too. So in addition to over 3 hours of educational video that I've just talked about, we also included 2 bonus items. First, I've included cooking demos on how to make dairy-free items like fat-free cheese sauce, which is so good over potatoes or mac and cheese, mozzarella cheese, faux parmesan, sour cream, Mexican chocolate pudding, cherry and ice cream. So I've included a cooking demo for that. And Eileen, again, has included 2 exercise videos, one which is shown to slow osteoporosis, slow bone loss, and the other one is to for people with osteoporosis. So one is to prevent osteoporosis, and one is for people that already have it. And then as bonus material, because we want to help people begin implementing what they learn in the class, Eileen and I have each provided a list of 3 action steps, which we encourage the viewers to take. And then we're offering a special incentive. So those that do complete the action steps, you'll get a free gift from us as well. So overall, the course has 3 hours of educational material, which could save you hours of digging into the research yourself, especially on the bone drugs. And that doesn't include the bonus videos. And then we present the facts. And as always, we encourage you to make the best decisions for yourself because you are your #1 health practitioner, right? And it's important to be an informed one. And then the final slide here is just a group of elderly people enjoying life and exercising. And our final thoughts are that life is short. In fact, it's too short to spend the last 5, 10, or 20 years with the majority of our time focused on these preventable health issues, where we want you to feel good and have energy and function well as you age. And I know from years of experience of helping people that with the right strategies and mindset, you absolutely can have a much better future. So I will stop my share now.
Yay, that is excellent information. I mean, oh my gosh. And that's exactly what people need is just to understand the, like underlying causes of osteoporosis and how animal protein feeds into that. And then recipes, how do we replace all that? And yeah, that's excellent. Okay, I think I forgot to say this at the beginning. To be clear, y'all, this vegan health bundle has different courses. Like you just saw Cyd's entire course. There's also 140 other courses, recipe ebooks, coupons, different things, all for $49. And they calculated up the total value, and it's like over $7,800 in total value for just $49. And you're going to get, you log on, you purchase the course, you'll get a downloadable, you'll get an email with all of the courses there, and you can download it and you have it for life. You can use the link for 1 year and you'll have access, and you have a year to figure out how to download it to a flash drive. I'm going to make a video about that. And yeah, you'll have it for life. So these are excellent, excellent resources. And it's all whole food, plant-based, no oil for maximum chronic disease reversal. So, all right, well, excellent. And so, yeah, so now I'm going to talk about what my contribution to the bundle, and that is a course called You're as Old as Your Arteries. And yeah, I've worked as a cardiac RN. I've been an RN for 27 years, most of it in cardiology. I used to run an outpatient heart failure clinic for 17 years. And these are all people that have already had their heart attack. And yeah, it's not pretty. We really want to avoid heart attacks as much as we can. It's the #1 cause of death in Western civilization. So let me share my screen here. And what I'm going to do is just talk about different concepts about, there we go, about heart health for each of the collaborations that I do on the bundle. So what I'm going to talk about today is inflammation. First, put out the fire, okay? And this is what our typical heart patient looks like after surgery. In fact, this looks so realistic, I had to black out his eyes. This is the exact little pillow that we give everyone to splint their sternal incision there after they come out of anesthesia. But and so that's what you look like after you've had bypass surgery. And then guess what you're going to get to eat in the hospital? You're going to get chicken, you're going to get turkey wraps, you're going to get maybe some salmon. So this is what we consider a quote unquote heart healthy diet. This is what I counseled my patients to eat for decades. And we'll say switch from the whole milk to low fat milk. That would be great, because culturally that's what everything is relative if you don't have any education in nutrition, right? So we're like, well, this is way better than barbecue and deep fried foods and bacon, right? So this seems healthy, but is it really? And that's what I want to talk about today. So let's first understand what coronary artery disease looks like. This is, and the coronary arteries, to be clear, I don't know if you can see this here, but like, let's say this is our heart. It's about the size of a fist. The coronary arteries are what we call their epicardial. They lay on top of the heart. And these are the ones that usually clog up and kill you, okay, because they're large enough to prevent blood flow to the crucial pumping part of the heart. So this is what we're looking at here, the coronary arteries. And this is a super healthy coronary artery. And this little lining, see that little bit of red on the inside? That's called the endothelium. And the endothelium is really important. It's what Dr. Esselstyn calls the life jacket of the artery. That is, that's what helps the arteries dilate. And it's really important to have that endothelium be intact. And what happens is over the decades, as we eat our turkeys, wraps, and our chicken salads and all that, even if we think we're eating healthy, all that saturated fat and low density lipoprotein, all that cholesterol starts to wear away our endothelium. And then, this is like a really pretty bad case of heart disease here. We all do not want to have that, right? So let's talk about how the actual plaques are formed. So when we eat cholesterol containing foods, and to be clear, all animal products contain cholesterol, even fish, even your salmon contains plenty of cholesterol. No plant products contain cholesterol. So if we just cut out the animal products, we have cut out all dietary cholesterol, and we don't require any cholesterol from our diet. Our liver makes all the cholesterol we need. So it's best to just cut that out. So when we eat cholesterol, these little orange dots up here, I don't know if my cursor is going to translate over, that's called LDL up in the top left corner, okay? Low density lipoprotein, that's your bad cholesterol. That LDL, it doesn't just lay on your arteries, kind of like sludge on a pipe, it burrows down in, okay? And that is, it becomes inflammatory. So it's going down underneath the lining of the endothelium. And then what happens, it creates an inflammatory process. And there's these little things called chemokines. Those are kind of like the fire alarm of your arterial system. And the chemokines send out an alarm and say, oh my gosh, there's an inflammatory process here. And then these big blue cells, these are the white blood cells. The white blood cells are coming to the rescue to put out the inflammation. That's how I used to always explain to my kids, like when they scrape their knee and they get an infection, that the white blood cells are working. They're like the soldiers that are going to fight the infection. Okay. So we've got our white blood cells coming in to gobble up these inflamed LDL particles, okay? And what happens is that they get kind of bogged down and they turn into what's called a big foam cell. Foam cells are like the Jabba the Hutt of the coronary vasculature here. This is really bad. So these foam cells are just seething pockets of pus that comprise these cholesterol plaques, okay? And then if that ruptures, all of that pus is going to come pouring out along with a bunch of red blood cells, and then that's going to cause a heart attack. So the first thing we want to do, and what I want you to understand, is that this whole process has a lot to do with inflammation. It's not just the mechanical blockage of a pipe. It is living, breathing inflammation underneath these arteries. So just to put it in like a common understanding here, if you were to drive home one day and your house is on fire, okay? But there is someone spraying a hose of gasoline on the fire. What's the first thing you're going to do? What would be the most efficient way to put out that fire? Stop the gasoline, turn the hose of gasoline off, okay? What is our nutritional gasoline? So I had to hire an artist to do this rendering here, but no, I'm just kidding. This is my little stick man. But yeah, so this house on fire, this represents our endothelial lining that is inflamed and worn away from all the foods that we're eating. So that's from our turkey wraps, that's from our chicken. All of these things contain cholesterol and they're going to inflame our arteries. So this is the gasoline that we are pouring on our coronary arteries, the saturated fat, the LDL, the bad cholesterol, the oil. When we have oil, we've removed the fiber, like we've removed the fiber from the olive, and the fiber contains all the phytonutrients, the phytosterols, all the things that are anti-inflammatory. We remove that and we're just left with the oil, okay? That is not good for our coronary arteries at all. TMAO, trimethylamine oxide, this is a compound that's created in the guts of meat eaters when it comes in contact with any animal protein. All animal proteins contain either carnitine or choline, and they combine with the gut bacteria of meat eaters and make this really inflammatory compound called TMAO. And we just discovered the presence of TMAO, I'm going to say probably like 12 years ago. So early studies on heart disease, they'd always do the like, oh, the fat-free milk, and we'd have fat-free yogurt. We thought we just had to take the fat out of it. And then later on, we learned this TMAO causes so much inflammation. Even if you remove all the fat, just the intrinsic nature of animal protein will cause these inflammatory factors, okay? Also, bacterial endotoxins, these are found in animal products in the slaughterhouse. You know, there's lots of bacteria that gets mixed in, and like fecal coliforms that get mixed in with your meat. They irradiate that to kill the living bacteria in the slaughterhouse. But the casing that surrounds the bacteria, that's the endotoxin. Nothing can kill the endotoxin, not stomach acid, not the heat from cooking. So that survives. It's highly inflammatory. Best way to avoid it is to not eat meat. And then heterocyclic amines, this is when we cook meat and it gets like the little char marks. That's also highly inflammatory. And there's a bunch of other inflammatory compounds I don't even have time to go into. So the best way to cut out inflammation is to stop eating these animal products. First, put out the fire. And you will typically not hear that in an American hospital after you've had a heart attack. So once we put out the fire, then we want to rebuild the structure, right? We're going to rebuild these walls represent our endothelial lining. And so how do we rebuild the house? Again, I know you're like, no regular person could draw that well, but I did. Yeah. So this is the scaffolding that we're going to rebuild. We are going to, we want to eat antioxidants. So oxidation is the fire, right? Antioxidant is putting out the fire. So we want to eat foods that are rich in antioxidants and phytonutrients. Phyto just means plant nutrients. And also nitric oxide. Nitric oxide repairs that endothelial lining that's going to line the insides of your coronary arteries. Even if you have existing plaque, that endothelial lining can be repaired if you stop eating the inflammatory compounds and start eating the anti-inflammatory foods. So we want to eat leafy greens, fruits and vegetables, whole grains and legumes. These are all going to turn our body to a health promoting anti-inflammatory direction. The legumes are going to make like soluble fiber in our gut, and they create these things called short chain fatty acids that turn everything into an anti-inflammatory direction. And then the leafy greens are really, really important. That's our best source of nitric oxide. And Dr. Esselstyn did a study on heart disease reversal, and lots of leafy greens were the cornerstone of his diet. Okay, and so when we eat this way, then we are able to, when we cut out the cholesterol, we cut out the animal products, we are able, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this cursor, but over here on the left, this big, here we go, this big cholesterol plaque. At the top, you can see the little white line above the plaque, that is the endothelial lining. And you can see where that arrow is, that lining is kind of worn away, right? That's what the problem is. That's where we get our rupture. So when we cut out the cholesterol, first of all, the cholesterol can out migrate from these plaques, but then also we're going to be eating lots of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and leafy greens. And that is going to help strengthen that endothelial lining, and see how it's getting thicker and thicker and thicker. And then that plaque is regressing. That is what we want to do with heart disease. We want to make it go away. And this just represents like the little tiny seedlings. These are the endothelial progenitor cells that are just the little seedlings of that endothelial lining. So when we stop inflaming our coronary arteries, and then we start adding antioxidants, we can, and nitric oxide with the leafy greens, we can start to build up this endothelial lining and reupholster our coronary arteries. And I talk more in my course, which is 2 hours long, all about heart health. And it's basically everything that you're not going to hear in your typical American hospital with your typical cardiologist. They're going to focus a lot on stents and devices and statins. And to be clear, if you have had a heart attack, you most likely need a statin. So I'm not saying to throw out all your pills and that you should never have any procedures, but frequently, and I go in depth in this in my course, if you don't have existing heart disease, you have not had a heart attack yet, a whole food plant-based diet is the most effective step that you can take. Statins offer almost no benefit compared to a whole food plant-based diet. But what we always recommend is to take the statin and then switch to the chicken and salmon diet. And you're still getting plenty of cholesterol, and we're doing nothing to address the inflammation when we just rely on statins. You're still going to have high inflammatory markers and still going to be destroying that endothelial lining, which is what the whole problem is. So yeah, we just want to switch to this food. We want to switch to plants, fruits, grains, legumes, vegetables. And when our diet is wrong, this is one of my favorite sayings, medicine is of no use, but when diet is correct, medicine is of no need. So that you're going to get all of this information again in the vegan health bundle. Over it is $7,700 on this little picture here, but it keeps going. I think it's almost $8,000. They keep adding more and more products, even if a last minute, but it's just $49. So to purchase the vegan health bundle, you can just click on the link in the show notes underneath this video, and that'll take you right to the bundle. And yeah, and you can also buy it as a gift. You can just enter your loved one's email when you check out, and it'll just go right to them. So now we've got another little treat. Let me stop my screen share. I am going to show you let's see. Let's do speaker. Okay. Let's see if I got this right. I think I am pinned. Okay, so I'm going to show y'all a really cool recipe for leafy greens from recipes, cookbooks in the bundle. And there are, I mean, over, oh my gosh, I'd say over 100 cookbooks in the bundle. Okay. So one of the things we're going to make is a kale saute today. And we're going to make, first of all, I'm going to make some orange dressing. Kale doesn't have to be boring. We're going to make it fun. So I'm going to show you, this is an orange dressing recipe from Chef Del Stroof. He has an entire cookbook of oil-free dressings. Okay. And so I'm going to show you a little trick. You can use a cheapo pot. This was my grandparents. If you get one of these cast iron heat diffusers, and your stuff won't burn. So it's pretty cool. So this orange dressing is going to use, we're going to get a 1/4 cup of fresh squeezed orange juice. And then we are going to combine maple syrup, tamari, rice vinegar into this. Okay. And then we're going to add some arrowroot powder. Oh no. Hold on. I'm going to have to get some more water. No, maybe I can loosen. There we go. I got it. And we're also supposed to have the zest of an orange, but you know what? I jumped the gun and I juiced the orange before I zested it, so that you won't make that mistake when you make this. Okay, now we're gonna put some arrowroot powder in. That's gonna thicken it up. And okay, so I'm gonna let that thicken, and then I'm gonna make some kale. Okay, so I've got this kale. Well, actually, here's what we're gonna do. This is from Linda Tyler, the Gracious Vegan. She has an entire cookbook on anti-inflammatory recipes, and this is her kale and peanut stir fry. I'm omitting the peanuts because in the Esselstyn, the heart disease reversal diet, we omit nuts, but we're gonna do riff on that. So first of all, we are going to stir fry some jalapenos. So I've got some diced jalapenos here. This is Thai inspired kale and peanut stir fry. All right. And then we've got some ginger, diced ginger. It smells so good. But yeah, you want to eat for the heart disease reversal diet, you want to eat 6 servings of leafy greens a day. And the cooked leafy greens are, I believe, like from the research, to have even more nitric oxide when they're cooked. Although Dr. Esselstyn did in later years concede that we could also have raw greens. Wow, hold on. Put my scallions in the fridge. Okay, and then this is just a whole bunch of scallions. Okay, and we are going to water saute this. And what I like to do when I first switched to a plant-based diet, I was kind of alarmed at this no oil thing because I thought I wouldn't ever be able to get my vegetables like browned or caramelized. But what you want to do is just add the water like a tablespoon at a time. And when you do that, that'll deglaze the pan, and you'll still get that nice caramelization that you want. And I have videos in my course about how to, well, in which I have the camera with an aerial view so you can see it all. But yeah, this is gonna brown up really nicely. Okay, Cyd, I think we're gonna have some dead air here while I'm waiting for this sauce to thicken. Do you have any questions that you can think of?
I do have a couple questions.
Yeah.
So the 6 servings of greens does not mean like 6 huge big salads, right? It means like a handful of greens 6 times a day.
What I believe Dr. Esselstyn says is the size of your fist. Cooked leafy greens, the size of your fist is 1 serving. Okay. And so an easy way to do this is to just, you know how you have like a grain bowl and people will make like, oh, a bed of whole grains, and then you put some vegetables or something on top. You can have that, but make your bed be the leafy greens. Okay. So we could, or you could just do half and half or whatever, but really you've got to get a lot of leafy greens in during the day. You can even chop up leafy greens and put them in your like your oats and have like a savory oat thing for breakfast. But yeah, and honestly, like when he wrote his book initially, and Dr. Esselstyn, Prevent Reverse Heart Disease, he had really the best outcomes for keeping patients that have had a heart attack proof in the 3.7 years following the study. And yeah, he was just very strict, but he's the one that really came up with this 6 servings of leafy greens a day. You know, we have a drug called isosorbide. It's a nitrate, which is a class of drugs that vasodilates. And isordil or isosorbide is short acting, like about 4 to 6 hours. And so like, yeah, patients have to take if they don't have the long acting kind, they have to take isosorbide like 4 times a day. but that's kind of like Dr. Esselstyn's logic here, is that he wants you to get this multiple times a day so that you are bathing your arteries in this nitric oxide. Okay, now my sauce is nice and thick. I'm going to take that off the heat. Okay. And
Oh, Stephanie, the recipe for this is in the bundle as well, right?
the recipe is in the bundle. Yeah, this is Linda Tyler's anti-inflammatory cookbook is the Thai inspired kale. And then Chef Dell is the it's his oil-free dressings book is the orange sauce.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, this is going to be this is not your mother's kale. This is, or your grandmother's kale. This is super exciting Thai inspired kale. Yeah.
You talked about the endothelium quite a bit. I didn't realize, does it ever, I know it gets damaged, but does it ever erode, or does it, you said it can repair.
So imagine, think of like upholstery on a couch. Like if you had upholstery that was just worn away to where it was threadbare. Okay. That's what the problem is that these cholesterol plaques will they will rupture at a point of endothelial weakness. Okay. And the problem is that we recommend people take statins and have stents and have surgeries. And sometimes you may need to, like, you have to have a stent if you're actively having a heart attack. That's the only treatment. But if you're not having a heart attack, stents have been shown by multiple studies to be of barely any use at all. Okay. So a diet is much more effective. So even if you have existing plaque, and frequently in older adults, that plaque is going to be calcified because of many reasons. Also, taking calcium supplements will lead to calcium buildup in your arteries. Okay. But calcium is kind of like the body's way to try to shore up, to try to like tile over these plaques. But if a plaque is calcified, it won't tend to gratuitously regress as easily as soft, fluffy plaque. Okay. However, it doesn't need to completely regress for you to be heart attack proof, because heart attacks, only 10% of heart attacks are caused by the clogged pipe theory, where the pipe just fills up all the way to that little pinhole and then the pinhole closes. That's only 10%. The vast majority of heart attacks are caused by ruptures from a small unstable plaque. What makes the plaque unstable? Endothelial lining, and then another concept called cholesterol crystallization. And I'm going to talk about that on March 6th, 4 p.m. Central Time on Chef AJ. Okay. But there's a couple other factors that cause these small plaques to rupture. And if you have a heart attack from arisen from a small plaque, you may be running a marathon. Heart attacks are not uncommon during marathons. Your first symptom that you have heart disease will be sudden cardiac death. Okay. So that's why we want to just try to prevent this in the first place. All right. So I can't remember if I answered your original question. What's the deal with the endo? Oh, and so even if you have a calcified plaque, if we stop eating the inflammatory foods and we start eating these 6 servings of leafy greens a day, you can repair the lining of that endothelium. Remember in the picture I showed where the lining is that thick, like as it heals, we get a thick white lining of the endothelium. Even if that plaque still persists and we're not able to make it dissolve because it is calcified, because the calcium doesn't really melt away. If we can reupholster that calcified plaque with a thick endothelium again, that prevents further heart attacks. And that's what Dr. Esselstyn demonstrated in his study with 177 patients, kept them 99.4% heart attack proof, or major cardiac event proof. A lot of these people did have calcified plaques, but no one else had another heart attack because they repaired the lining. And that lining, that's why we call it the life jacket. We could just like put like a Kevlar vest over the lining of your arteries, and that will prevent the heart attacks. So let's see. So here we go. We're going to eat our yummy leafy greens. Okay. And like I said, these are exciting leafy greens with scallions and ginger and jalapenos, really yummy. Okay. And then we're going to have, let me get a spoon. Going to have this delicious orange sauce to put over the top. Yeah, this is going to be really good. You could leave out that arrowroot if you don't want it to be kind of like a Chinese type of dressing, if you want to be more like a salad dressing. But yeah, here it is. I don't know if you can see that, but
looks delicious.
Yeah, this is really good. You could put that over a bed of rice or quinoa, like whole grains. You could toss some red peppers, like whatever you want with it. Like this recipe, if you don't have heart disease, it's still great to eat leafy greens. This recipe calls for peanuts and cilantro on top, and like maybe sriracha sauce or something if you want. If you don't have heart disease, yeah, toasted peanuts would be really good. But if we have heart disease or we've had a heart attack, we want to avoid nuts, or at least like no more than one nut a day, basically, because they do have saturated fat, and we want to really keep that bloodstream very low in fat so that we can try to regress these plaques. So yeah, that's basically the whole story there. I'm going to sit back down over here, but yeah, you have any other questions?
I think I had a question again about, like, when you're on Chef AJ, will you be talking about particle size, like small LDL versus large LDL?
I'm not going to be talking about particle size. I'm going to be talking about what causes the rupture. I mean, I'll tell you, Cyd, when you get into particle size and stuff, then you get into like people that are lipidologists, that's like an entire subspecialty of cardiology, and it gets very specific. I generally try to address just very broad concepts that are commonly misunderstood everywhere. and like concept, that's what I feel that I have to offer. I come from the cardiology world. And as soon as I learned all this stuff, like I got the T. Colin Campbell certification, and then I got a board certification in lifestyle medicine. And it became very clear to me, like, we don't know this. Like I've gone to conferences every year, like for heart failure and for different things. And we just don't learn about the causes, like and this information is out there, but it doesn't make it through to the general public. So that's what I like to focus on, is the things that you're not going to hear from your cardiologist. Your cardiologist is going to recommend, generally, I mean, you may be lucky and have a plant-based cardiologist and they're on the same page as me, but that's not super common. But your average cardiologist will tell you to eat the chicken and the fish and take the statins. And the statins don't address the inflammation. So, but yeah, on Chef AJ, I'm going to be talking about an interesting study that really will stick in your head, about when you think like, it's like, which cholesterol molecule is going to cause the heart attack? And when you think about it that way, it gives you a little bit more motivation to change your diet. So yeah, there we go. But yeah, and so in my show notes, and you can, like, if you subscribe on my website, like do it now. I'm going to be sending out emails with the schedule of where I'm going to appear. And also there's like in the bundle, I think if you click on the bundle link, like you can view everything before you buy it. And there's also a list of all the lives, and you'll be able to see some of the lives. Of course, like this, we're pre-recording this. This is not a live. So not everything is a live, but those that are lives, you can see on the live spreadsheet on the bundle link. So yeah, you can check it all out and then you can just follow along with us. So yeah, lots of really good information here. So I really appreciate, I can take myself off of speaker view, but I really appreciate teaming up with you, Cyd. And yeah, y'all, this is so
Likewise.
much valuable information. I really recommend you jump on there and check out that bundle. And so Cyd's socials are going to be in the show notes here. You can follow along with Cyd and also follow along with me, and you're going to learn a whole lot this week. So anything else you'd like to add, Cyd?
No, just thanks so much. I think this was very beneficial.
Yeah, you
People
betcha.
get the bundle. These are just two of the things in the bundle.
Right.
There's over 140 things in
There's-
there. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's well worth the
There's
$49.
more, it boggles the mind. So yeah, but follow along. I'm going to be going through like the bundle on a tablet. I call it my bundle scroll. I have 8 days where I go through and just review every single item in the bundle. So follow me for that too. So I sure appreciate it, Cyd. It's been a lot of fun, and y'all take care and keep following along. You're going to learn a whole lot this week. All right. Peace, love, and plants. Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.